Hello and welcome back to my channel. Jacob Payton here, and I'm going to be talking about Will Haunt You by Brian Kirk. And it says, "You don't read this book, it reads you." And on the back it says, "Rumors of a deadly book have been floating around the dark corners of the deep web. A disturbing tale about a mysterious figure who preys on those who read the book." Jesse Wheeler, a former guitarist of a heavy metal group, was quick to discount the ominous folklore associated with the book. It takes more than some urban legend to frighten him, but Jesse is wrong. The legend is real, and soon he will become the protagonist in a scheme specifically tailored to prey on his fears. Jesse is not the only one in danger. By reading the book, you have volunteered to participate in the author's deadly game, with every page drawing you closer to your own personalized nightmare. The real horror doesn't begin until you reach the end. That's when the evil comes for you. That's a pretty apt description of what happens in the book. Jesse is a man who is in a heavy metal band, but he also had problems with drugs and alcohol, and this has led him to have a pretty dark secret that comes out throughout the book on some of his past actions in which he hurt loved ones very close to him. I'm not going to spoil that, as it is a big part of the book. As a fan of Hellraiser, I'll be honest, this book reminded me a lot of Hellraiser in honestly kind of the best ways. For those of you not familiar with Hellraiser, essentially, somebody plays a puzzle box. Once the puzzle box has been played, it invites the Cenobites into their lives and into their world. And usually the people that play with it, they have some sort of dark secret, and the Cenobites kind of draw them into their own personal hell before taking them away. Essentially, that's kind of what's playing out a little bit in this book too. You have to kind of survive to the end, but you have to play the game, and that's made abundantly clear. He's actually given a guide early on that makes that clear to him, that there are certain scenes he has to play out. There are a role he has to play to get to, the ending that he's supposed to achieve. And I thought that was really interesting. The writing just pulls you in immediately. It's not a very long book, it's 230 pages. So, it doesn't waste its time at all. I'll be honest, I don't know enough about runes, but a lot of the chapter titles had runes on them, and then there's like a guide to runic script on the back, and I thought that was kind of cool. It was playing into like the folkloric horror element of this mysterious book. I did kind of appreciate that attention to detail. I love folk horror, and this very much kind of felt like that. But it also, like I said, it felt like Hellraiser, right? Just like there's the legend of the puzzle box, there's the legend of this book. I don't know that the author pulled from Hellraiser, or if he's a fan of Hellraiser, but if he is, he definitely, I think, took the idea of it and made it his own in the best way possible, which I really appreciate. And obviously Hellraiser is also a book, or novella, a series of novellas. There's comics. Clive Barker's in a whole bunch of stuff. I love the folkloric aspects. I also love, as a fan of metal myself, I love when music gets played out in books. Grady Hendrix did something similar. I love the idea of heavy metal protagonists, just because as someone that listens to a lot of heavy metal and black metal and stuff like that, there is a lot of occult aspects and imagery that the bands use that I think play out really well in the horror genre. Not to mention, a lot of the bands are fans of horror, obviously. You can tell from the iconography or just the song titles. Usually there's a lot of overlap, and I think it's one that doesn't get played with enough, but that's my opinion, so I am happy to see it play out in this book. I also kind of like the protagonist because he's not great, and what I mean by this is, throughout the book we're obviously rooting for him to kind of get through the trials and throughout the scenes and to play through the story as it's being told from this evil book. But also it's just the fact that he's not like a morally a great character, right? He cheats on his wife. He does have problems with drugs and alcohol, and it's kind of made a little clear that if, you know, certain events hadn't happened, he still would have issues with that. It's more or less guilt that's keeping him clean than himself keeping him clean. And, you know, I enjoyed that a lot. I mean, to be fair, you know, he is also one of those characters that knows he's hurting the people closest to him, but can't seem to stop himself. And I always kind of enjoy, maybe enjoy is not the right word. I like a realistic character. Sometimes I feel like in horror novels, there's either, the protagonist is either painted as someone who is only like a step away from being a monster themselves, or is someone so morally forthright that they don't seem to be like a believable character, right? This is the teenager in the woods that is like, I don't know, guys, I don't think we should party, and then makes it to the end. I didn't know many teenagers like that growing up. If all the teenagers around them were throwing a party in a cabin and they showed up to that cabin, they were probably going to take a couple of drinks themselves. You know, that is what it is. So I like, you know, this felt like a believable character. Jesse kind of really felt like a guy you would meet at a bar. Yeah, I don't really know what to say about that. If you've been to a bar, you've probably met a Jesse yourself. He's the guy that's probably there when you get off work and has been there since happy hour started and will be there when the bar closes. That's kind of the way his character is described, and then he'll make very questionable decisions on his way home, and maybe even get behind the wheel, sadly. You know, like I said, there's a lot of darkness in this book, and I just feel like it's played with enough and in a way that it's like a fine line between making us hate the main character and making us root for the main character, and I just feel like the author did a really good job about that, because even at the end, I still kind of want Jesse to make it out of this with his family, right? I do think he did some very bad things. I think also that he probably didn't deserve to be put in a haunted book or have to deal with that in his life. And there are reasons for that, and I'm not going to spoil those reasons, because there are, like I said, this isn't a very long book, so I don't want to spoil a whole lot, because, you know, I feel like in shorter novels, every twist, you know, that's kind of the big thing. It's not like one of those 900-page fantasy door stoppers where you can give away a few twists and the story's still there. I feel like if you give away too many twists in a short novel, then people will just kind of shrug their shoulders and won't check it out. And I think if if this book sounds like something you'd be into, if you're a fan of Hellraiser, or if you like folk horror, or you want to read about bands or protagonists that are in bands and have that play out in fiction, especially horror fiction, then I think you should check this book out. So like I said, I don't want to really spoil too much. I enjoyed this book a lot. It's not a super long read. Like I said, like I devoured this in a couple days, and that was while reading other books. I like this. Yeah, I like this book. I recommend this book. Check out Will Haunt You by Brian Kirk if you're looking for like a summer read or something. I know it's not very summery in the way that it doesn't take place near a beach, but it's still a really good horror read, and I feel like it'd make a good poolside read. But that's just my 2 cents. So yeah, check this out. That's my recommendation. I know I'm kind of blowing up the channel right now with book reviews. If you're a longtime viewer, I'm just trying to get through I have a massive pile of books I'm meaning to review. My review slowed down, so I'm trying to get through all those. So do bear with me. If you've read this book, like this book, know about more folkloric horror books that are kind of in the same vein, or any books that kind of have the same Hellraiser vibe, let me know in the comments below. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.